The Dallas Stars have pushed the Minnesota Wild to the brink of elimination after a 4-0 win in Game 5. We break down all the action and what the Wild have to do in Game 6 and beyond on today's Locked On Wild Postcast.
You are Locked On Wild Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, your team every day.
Minnesota Wild lose 4-0 in Game 5. They now trail 3-2 in this best-of-7 series against the Dallas Stars and must win in Game 6 and Game 7 in order to keep this thing going. Seth Topal joined by Kevin Gorg. Kevin, what we were hoping for, I think, was the Wild to take what happened in Game 4 and come out with some intent and really try to push things here in Game 5 to try to get back above water in this series, but it just, from the beginning, it just got lopsided, and Dallas just really took control in this game, and the Wild have to win on Friday or they're done.
Yeah, I would argue that the Wild were more in the game in Game 2, a game they got beat 7-3 than they were tonight. You know, you can talk all you want about officiating. I don't want to hear it. Bottom line is this. If you take penalties against this hockey team, and we've said this isn't a revelation here. We've said this from our series preview 10 days ago to where we are right now after Game 5. If you give them power plays, they will beat you. It's that simple. And when you come out, and again, it's a 50-50 call. I don't like the call, but you put the officials in a position where they can hurt you. This game, for all intents and purposes, with the way Oettinger's playing, and the way this series has progressed emotionally, when Robertson got that second power play goal, it was lights out. And the Wild never really gave themselves a chance to push Dallas at all tonight. Dallas, that's as easy a win as you can have in a playoff series that's been so tightly contested, two evenly matched teams. And I just feel like the Wild never gave themselves a chance to win a game tonight.
Well, and the further point to the Foligno penalty is, whether it was a major or not, the officials have been watching this whole series unfold the way that it has. And so to put yourself in position for that to even be debated is the thing that you can't do.
Yeah, and I'm certain that Minnesota will use this extra time off between now and Friday. When I originally saw the schedule, I cringed because I think Minnesota's physical play and the way they grind games out can cause fatigue. And I thought that extra day off would favor Dallas. It's funny how things play out, Seth. The way this game went, the psychology of the series, when you're a goaltender like Oettinger and you're locked in, you want to play the next day. So having a little extra time here, I think, will be a very, very good thing for Minnesota. And one of the things I asked Dean Evison about in the post-game presser is, at all points this season, off bad, ugly losses, this team has been resilient and this team has responded. And if you're a Wild fan and you're looking for something maybe closer in your memory bank than something back in December or before that, look no further than what happened in Game 3. Minnesota got embarrassed. They got buried 7-3 in Game 2 and probably played their most complete game in Game number 3. They're going back home. It's a Friday night in St. Paul. It's likely going to be a later start because the Islanders beat Carolina tonight. There are some factors involved that are going to allow this to be a very, very exciting night for Minnesota. And I think it's imperative for them to, number one, flush this one away, and number two, learn some valuable lessons. Barking about officiating is not going to win you this series. Getting back to playing 5-on-5 hockey will give you a chance to do that, and they need to start doing that on Friday night.
Kevin, I think we need to acknowledge as well, as this series goes on, you look at the star players for both sides. That was a storyline going into this game, is which top players are going to start to take over first. And we haven't seen Matt Boldy score in this series yet. We've seen Kirill Kaprizov with one goal, but now he's on a stretch where he hasn't scored in 4 straight for the first time in his career. And some of it is Kirill Kaprizov not playing at 100%. Dallas is just doing a really good job defensively of locking those guys down.
Yeah, I'll start with their head coach, Pete DeBoer, and we've seen this matchup play out. We talked about it on our broadcast tonight on Bally Sports North. When DeBoer was in Vegas a couple of years ago and the Wild played the Golden Knights, Kaprizov was really shut down in that series. Then last year, He scores 7 goals in 6 games against the Blues, and now he's getting shut down again. The only similarity I can find is Pete DeBoer. Dallas has done a remarkably good job of limiting his space. There's layers of defense every time he touches the puck. Same thing with Matt Boldy. I believe that Minnesota has got to figure out a way to get him more chances on the rush. Once they get in the zone, he's a marked man, and they've got multiple players taking away any avenue to that scoring zone near the slot where he likes to loop around and get to. The one thing I saw tonight, not a lot of positivity, but the Sam Steele breakaway, the Nyquist breakaway, Dallas is still a team that in their DNA allows their defensemen to be super aggressive. Minnesota is a great transition team. They have gifted blue liners that can get the puck from defense to offense quickly, and there are 2-on-1s and breakaways available. Get Kirill one of those situations. He's one of those guys that when the puck goes in, it could open up the floodgates. But until it does, he's going to be a frustrated player. And I watched him tonight get on that team bus. We just got back to the hotel. I'm going to tell you right now, nobody cares more than 97. Any Wild fan that's watched him play can see the passion he has. And it's not passion about stats. It's passion about winning. And he's a frustrated guy right now because he's not helping his team win. A couple extra days here. He's not 100%. I'm with you on that, Seth. Something tells me on Friday night that there'll be some subtle changes along the way from Dean Evison. They're going to try to get this guy some space.
Yeah, I want to talk about both special teams units because, as you alluded to, you have a formula you use to get to the postseason, but when you get to the postseason, teams are looking at every part of your team, every line combination, every player on the roster, trying to find that thing that they can exploit. And just like St. Louis did last year, the Stars have settled on the penalty kill as the thing that they have exploited. Is there anything that the Wild can do with those units, both penalty kill and power play? Is it personnel? Is it scheme? Is there anything they can do heading into Game 6 to try to shore things up a bit?
Well, I think Minnesota's been such a tough team to get to the blue paint on 5-on-5. Pete DeBoer, their head coach, talked about it about a half an hour ago in his post-game presser, how disciplined Minnesota is and physical they are around the net. That has not been the case in these penalty kill situations. You look at both the goals tonight, not just the Sagan goal, but even the Robertson goal, where you allowed 2 Dallas players to impair the vision of Philip Gustafsson, who never really saw that puck. Dallas has been really good in those power play situations getting to the net. And if there's an adjustment to be made, it's somewhere around that blue paint, because Minnesota's gotten killed in these power play situations by Dallas around that blue paint. On the other side of the equation, on the power play for Minnesota, I think the biggest thing they can do is get better on the entry and get possession right away. They've been quick to throw the puck in. Part of that's the positioning that Dallas has had at the blue line. They're losing a bunch of faceoffs. And I know that's a hard thing right now with Joel Eriksson out. He's their best faceoff guy in all these situations, and that's a real problem, and it's certainly rearing its head in so many different facets. But be better on the entry. Give yourself a chance to get set up. And then, I've said it all along, you're not going to beat Jake Oettinger if he sees it. So right now, the best thing you can do is get traffic, even if it's a wrist shot from the point. If you're out there on the point and you're John Klingberg, wrist that puck to the net. He does give rebounds, and he is beatable around the blue paint. He's not beatable on clean looks, and they just haven't done enough to make him work to find that puck, and they have to find a way to do that in Game 6.
We'll continue to take a look at some lineup adjustments the Wilds can make, as well as just kind of looking at this series as a whole as we gear up for Game 6 as the Wild fall in Game 5 4-0 to the Dallas Stars. More to come on tonight's Locked on Wild postcast after this. Continuing tonight's Locked on Wild postcast, Minnesota Wild fall 4-0 in Game 5. They now trail 3-2 in the opening round against the Stars. Seth Topal joined by Kevin Gorg. Kevin, you look at this series, and we've talked about it a lot, just trying to kind of keep it fresh. It's a long series. There's going to be a lot of punch, counterpunch, and this is the first time this series in which Dallas has punched and then punched again. And so for the Wilds, this is the first time in this series in which it's imperative on them that they gain momentum back. And obviously with the fact that now they are one loss away from being eliminated, you know what the objective, the mission have to win. You had that make this any easier for just mentality wise of knowing what you have to do going in?
Well, I think you rely on your veterans to get you through this stressful time because you're right. Minnesota led 1-0 in the series. Minnesota led 2-1. To Dallas's credit, they bounced back. And I think if you're Minnesota, you have to understand to win come time for Stanley Cup playoffs, your mettle is going to be tested. And right now, mentally, they are being tested. There's no question. And if you want to survive and have a chance to make a run at a cup, you have to go through situations like this where you start to doubt yourself, your teammates. The coaches are bewildered. There's a lot of negativity right now. And I really believe the extra time off and a practice on Thursday is going to do this team some good. What I go back to is this. I've been around this team and the core of this group for many, many years. I'm talking about the Marcus Folignos, the Jared Spurgeons, the Matt Dumbas, the veteran leadership in the room, Jonas Brodin. They've always been at their best in the most adverse situations. They don't mind this type of pressure. And the last time Minnesota came back from 3-2 down in a series, Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, and Matt Dumba all played huge roles in that comeback in against the Avalanche, where they were down 2-0 in the series. They were down 3-2 in the series. They had to go back home. They had to win a game 6 like this. They had to go to Denver and win a game 7. The similarities they're everywhere. Colorado, a high-powered team. They had a great power play. It was a very evenly matched series. There was adversity throughout. There were injuries throughout. Darcy Kemper got hurt within game 7. Ilya Bryzgalov had to win that game for Minnesota. So the veteran players in this team have been there and done that. They've got to draw on those experiences and then filter that conversation throughout the room because you've got a lot of young guys listening. And then you've got the Nyquists and the Reeves and all those veteran players that Bill Guerin went and brought in that have won plenty of series when their backs were up against the wall. So it's doable. I love that they're going home. And I've said all along that this was going to be a 7-game series. And if you can win a game and play it the right way on Friday and come back here on Sunday, and maybe you get off to a little better start, now you have to make Dallas earn something. Right now you're giving them games like they did tonight, and that doesn't give you a chance.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that the team that scores first has won every game in this series. It is all about the early start and trying to take the opposing team out of it. So a hot start will get the crowd going at the X. It will have that doubt creep in for the Dallas Stars. And it's just, you just have to do it. If you're the Wild, you're in a situation where you have to respond, and you have to respond early.
Well, not just in the playoffs here, all 4 games during the regular season. So that's a perfect 9 for 9. The team that scores first has won the game. Now take a look at the NHL playoffs. At one point, it was 21-6 for the first goal. Tonight, Islanders score first with their backs to the wall. They win in Carolina. Dallas scores first and never looks back. Edmonton scored first. They're up 5-2 in the third. This is not a mystery here, folks. So I think the mentality that the Wild have to bring into that game on Friday night is when that puck drops, you're playing the first overtime session. You play overtime different. You don't take dumb penalties. You don't take dumb chances. You tighten up defensively. You play a different brand of hockey because one mistake can lose you the hockey game. If you come into those first 10 minutes and play it like an overtime game, allow the crowd to get into it, yes, play physical, but play smart, you'll get a different result because that first goal, especially right now with the way that Jake Oettinger has found his game within this series, I think it gets magnified tenfold in a situation like that.
Kevin, defensively, you've got guys like Alex Goligoski, John Merrill, Kalen Addison, who are there if needed. I don't know that defense has been as much of an issue, I wouldn't think, but you do have Oscar Sundqvist available on the forward side. Do we maybe see him get in here in game 6?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think you're going to see any move on the blue line. I know they love their top 4, and I don't know how you can't love the way Klingberg and Faber are playing off each other right now. They're getting better shift by shift, game by game. I had a chance to talk to Klingberg, not only on the air after the game, but we walked to the bus together, and he really is impressed with Brock Faber, and he's really having fun playing with him. So I would be shocked if anything changed on the blue line. Not only Sundqvist coming in, and again, that's an option, and then Sam Steele's the center, so I don't know how that plays out with faceoffs and what you need in certain situations. But I'm not completely against them shuffling the deck, and I don't know if they will. You worry about pressing the panic button and the message that you send. But Seth, when you have a practice day on Thursday and a morning skate on Friday, it's an abnormal situation come this time of year. And if I'm Dean Emerson and that coaching staff, and trust me, they know a million times more than any of us will ever know about it, I at least consider the idea and throw some ideas off the wall just to maybe change the way you look and change the way Dallas. Maybe you find a combination where you've got Boldy and Kaprizov on the same line. They both can't get layered up on, and they've played together before throughout this season, a lot of times after a big penalty kill. So I wouldn't close the door on that idea either.
Yeah, because one of the things I thought that was most interesting, and I believe was a graphic at some point during the game, is that Kaprizov has been outscored with Miro Heiskanen on the ice guarding him. And in terms of chances, it's really not close. They've done a good job of keeping Heiskanen with him. And so putting somebody else on that line that can take some of that pressure away would probably be worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud right now. This is the beauty of a podcast. We get to throw ideas off the wall. We're not the coaches with all that pressure, but I just thinking to myself, Nyquist in the middle of Boldy and Kaprizov would be a different wrinkle. And there's a lot of things you can do. They've got depth up front. They've got a lot of guys that can slide in different places. Nyquist can play center or wing. Johansson can play center or wing. Hartman can play center or wing. So you've got some real flexibility there. I'm certain they'll take a look at all different avenues, and it's fun for us to talk about. It's great fodder for these shows. But I can tell you that this extra day off is probably going to be exactly what Minnesota needed. This is right now a good time to hit the reset button, and you just have to worry about one game. You can't think about, oh my God, we got to win back-to-back games and Dallas's goalies. All you got to worry about is Friday night in St. Paul. And After what I saw last Friday night, I think if you're a Wild fan right now, you feel like, all right, we'll take our chances. That crowd's going to be amped. It's going to be loud. It's going to be fun. And I think Minnesota will have a chance now to get back and prove that they belong in a Game 7 in Dallas. Right now, they're just trying to earn that and prove they belong with this hockey team. And I think they've learned some lessons, not only from this series, but what happened last year with St. Louis. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They've got to channel some of that energy in a smarter way, but I think the veterans in that room will figure it out.
Yeah, you got to get up off the mat, get ready for Game 6 and come out swinging. And beyond that, there is really nothing you can do. So we'll see what happens. And of course, we will have you covered every step of the way. That's going to do it for tonight's Locked On Wild postcast. Kevin, thanks for the time as always, live from Dallas. We'll look forward to chatting with you after Game 6. And for listeners, make sure you keep an eye on all of our content at Locked On Wild. Subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any of our coverage throughout the rest of this series. We have new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.